Salibonani. Linjani. Such a great honor, my dear friend, to be invited by you tonight to be your guest of honor. For those of you who don't know me well, one of the things that you need to understand is that for the last 26 years, this has been a growing friendship between the two of us. I think we first met in 1999 in the run-up to the formation of the MDC, and Job then was this fiery young student, and I was a sort of middle-aged lawyer from the south of the country. So we didn't know each other well, but in the last 26 years, it's grown into, from my perspective, quite a remarkable friendship. And he's become a dear friend, a fellow lawyer, and of course, a fellow opposition politician for over 25 years. Now, when you read this book, and if you speak to his family and friends, you will find that he's a man of many talents. He's a great orator. He's a fiery orator. He's a great family man. He's stood by his children through incredibly difficult times. So he is a man of many talents, but for all those talents, there are two things that he's not talented at, and that is tact and diplomacy. And his lack of tact and diplomacy, his ability to call a spade a bloody shovel, has in his life got him into a lot of trouble, which is documented in this book. But one thing that will strike you through this as you read about his life is that, and it's a word I apply to our friendship, he has been consistent. He has been a consistent advocate for all the time that I've known him for human rights. He's been a consistent advocate for constitutionalism in the true meaning of that word. He's been a consistent advocate for respecting the rule of law. But for that consistency, he has paid arguably one of the heaviest prices of any of us who have opposed tyranny in the last 3 decades. But what I want to do this evening, before I turn to the book, is also speak briefly about the personal side of Job Sikhala. Because often we see these iconic people and we don't fully understand them. And I need to speak personally in two respects. Firstly, the personal nature of our friendship. I'm obviously white. He's obviously black. We come from very different backgrounds. I come from a privileged background. I never had to struggle in life in terms of my parents providing me with a decent education. And I consider myself to be incredibly privileged. Job, on the other hand, has had to battle for everything, battle for his education, battle to get a degree. And even when he became a lawyer, it's been a battle. It hasn't been handed to him on a plate. But he's been utterly consistent in his friendship with me. Although we come from that very different background, I've found him to be one of the most consistent people in the opposition. He has always treated me as the same. He's often been direct with me where he has disagreed with me, but it never affected our friendship. It never affected our ability to communicate with each other. And so that's the first incredible trait, incredible characteristic, which I have personally found in Job. He is predictable. He is a sure friend, not just of people in high places with a high profile, but of the poor people. And we saw that in the way that he stood out for More Blessing Ali, who had no one to protect her. But Job Sikhala was there for her. The other and second characteristic I have seen in him throughout my friendship with him is someone who has been unflinchingly brave. And I want to speak briefly about his time in Chikurubi Maximum Prison. It's very hard for most of us here today to fully understand the conditions of our prisons. I can remember when I first was instructed way back in 1985 to go and see Edward Ndlovu and Stephen Nkomo, who were detained at Kami prison. I was a young lawyer. I hadn't been to our maximum prisons before, and I was profoundly shocked by what I saw. And that was way back in 1985. You can imagine what has happened to our prisons when you compare our prisons to our roads. Think about what our roads were like in 1985 and what they are like today. And then you need to think about how the conditions in prisons have deteriorated. And Chikurubi Maximum is no different to Kami Maximum. Despite what I've seen as a lawyer in the last 40 years, I was profoundly shocked when I first visited Job in Chikurubi Maximum about the conditions, about the fact that it was dark. There were hardly any light bulbs. He was brought to me in the midst of this Chikurubi Maximum prison in leg irons, with all that security around. Even in the midst of the prison, he was brought to me in leg irons. And yet, through that, we managed to laugh. We managed to discuss. We managed to think about a new Zimbabwe, where people would not be imprisoned in these situations for simply speaking the truth. And it had a profound impact on me that here was a man in these hellish conditions. It is the only way you can describe it, who yet still kept his sanity, his respect for humanity, his respect for all the principles he had stood for so many decades. And that then and now is inspirational to me. And it comes back to that trait of consistency. I see this constant thread in his life, which is inspirational. I want to turn briefly to the book itself. I've only managed to speed read it so far, some of the earlier drafts, as you know. But the book itself is a sobering record of Job's life. It documents the obstacles I spoke about earlier that he has had to overcome and has overcome. But more than anything else, it is an indictment. It is an indictment against tyranny. What it does, it stands as a record of systematic abuses of fundamental rights. It documents the systematic abuse against Job Sikhala. And to that extent, it is a searing indictment against those responsible for this abuse. But as we read books of this nature, as we recount the history of the last 30-odd years of tyranny in our nation, it is important that we don't just remain there, that we use books like this to build the future. And forgive me, because I want to have a few reflections now. I stand here obviously as a white person, aged 67. And as I reflect on the history of our nation, I recognize that much of the abuse that has been brought to bear on Job Sikhala is in fact the making of the white community. And the horrors that we inflicted on this nation, going back to the 1960s when it was the white community that built the prisons that we have. It was the white community that drafted the Law and Order Maintenance Act. It was the white community which imposed media restrictions and ensured that there was only one radio station and one television station that sprouted one party's line. And to that extent, it is our own community, as a white community, which started this poison, which led to the war, which poisoned our nation as it has been. And I often say this because I believe it with all my heart, that much of the poison, much of the insanity of our nation, which is documented here, tragically goes back to the 1960s and earlier. And it is important for us to acknowledge that. But we need to go beyond that. And my appeal tonight, particularly to those who are here undoubtedly as state agents. We have state agents here tonight. You will be writing a report of what I say and what Job Sikhala says and what other people say. And I want you to reflect, and if you write anything about what I say tonight, please take this down very carefully. What the Rhodesian Front did was sow chaos and poison in our nation. And what is a truism is that we reap generally what we sow. And the poison that was inflicted in this country in 1965 and through the Law and Order Maintenance Act and the disappearances of people like Sithole and the abuses of fundamental freedoms was reaped. All of that was sowed was reaped by the white community in the 1970s. And let me use this opportunity to broaden this to international issues so that you can see that what I talk about doesn't just concern our nation. I want to speak about Israel tonight and Gaza. And I'm not going to take a partisan line to go down that rabbit hole. But you know, my deepest concern about what I see going on in Gaza today is that Israelis are sowing hatred for the future, irrespective of what has gone on in the past. I'm not making a judgment on this. And the relevance of that statement tonight to Zimbabwe, and this is for the CIO folk here tonight, is what are we sowing in our nation? What are we teaching our children? What are we sowing when we take a person obviously committed to nonviolence, who has used democratic processes to speak out against corruption, to speak out against the rule of law, and we treat that person by throwing that person into the most awful conditions for 590 odd days? What do we sow in our nation for the future? And now must be the time in our nation that we all, irrespective of our political backgrounds, whether we support ZANU-PF, whether we support the opposition. Now must be the time that we draw a line in the sand, that we say that this nation must never allow what has been documented in this book to happen again. And that more than anything else is why books like this are so important. To teach us all where we must not go in future. To get us all to stop sowing poison and chaos for our children and our grandchildren. And for that reason, Job, and to the author, I commend you. And I hope that everyone reads this book, studies it, and that we learn from it. God bless you all.
I had a prepared speech that I would have read maybe for 20 minutes, but because of time, I'm not going to go there. But I will capture something that is very closer to my heart, that is very important, particularly to this particular region, Advocate Sikhala, Matabeleland region. Many people have spoken here of you in the past, but I want to speak to you in the future, because that's where we are headed to. Honorable Wende has captured the essence of what you are busy doing right now, consulting the ordinary people of Zimbabwe on what is to be done. When you came out of prison, you have authored a concept that you are busy working on with your colleagues, the National Democratic Working Group, where you are going around the country, consulting the ordinary people, ordinary masses, on what is to be done. Very soon we will culminate into national conventions where we will discuss as citizens of this country the way forward. And Job Sikhala is the initiator and the author of that concept. We are in Matabeleland, Job Sikhala. There is something that is troubling the people of Matabeleland, where successive parties from ZAP to CCC, in between you have your MDC, MDCT, MDC Alliance, have failed the people of Matabeleland. That is the issue of Igogura. Our political parties, most of them, the leaders being here today, have failed to bring ZANU-PF to account on the atrocities of Igogura. That is something I think which will be your immediate task as you carry this country forward. We want a full account on what happened to many people that are not even accounted for today. Not only politicians, even our chiefs are today used against the people of Matabeleland. Izinduna zakithi during Smith, they were used to implement very unpopular policies among the people, which led also to the liberation struggle. Ngapha kithi eNkayi, we had a chief uDakamele. There was a song yenquzu ukuthi uchief uDakamele usibamba ngamandla ukugebha amakandiwe. It was a very unpopular policy kaSmith at the time. Today we have the same chiefs used by ZANU to come to the people bezokuthi xolanini. Abantu bazaxola kanjani izililo eBhalapho zilokhu zizwakala namhlanje? Abantu bazaxola kanjani iMatabeleland is littered with mass burials ezenziwa ngaleso sikhathi, which we don't know ukuthi abobani? Abantu bazaxola kanjani omama bethu, osisi, auntie, they were raped. Those rapists today are still in the system of government. Abantu bazaxola kanjani ingane ziphethe fake birth certificates, ezinye azilama birth certificates, because obaba bazo bafa, omunye wagcina uyise ethathwa ngabantu ababethwele umbhobho. Even today we don't know where that bone is, but izinduna zithi abantu abaxole. Kufuneka ke sizikhumbuze induna zakithi ukuthi zisezicathulweni zamaqhawe, okhokho bazo babengamaqhawe enamhlanje uma sisithi singumthwakazi yingoba kwakuyimisebenzi yabo yangalezo zikhathi. Ake sizikhumbuzeni induna zakithi ukuthi ake zisukume, zingabi ngovuma zonke odumalazo, ke zitshengise ukuthi zingamadoda, zinamasende, zimele lento. Siyakudinga lokho ukuthi as we move forward, let's have a leadership, a political leadership that will engage ZANU-PF, that will mobilize the masses to refuse what is happening. We have failed. I-politicians akithi sisonke sisithi singama-politicians. We have failed abantu beMatabeleland on that regard. Sicela ke sibuyeleni emuva, sikhumbuleni isitsho esithi inhlathu ayifi ivuka umfukula. Ake sivukeni lo mfukula sitshengise ukuthi singabantwana isizalwane samaqhawe namaqhawekazi. Ngiyabonga.
Your Worship, the Mayor for the City of Kings, Baba David Coulthard, there was a reason why we chose you to become our guest of honor to this very important event. It is on the basis of your love, not only for the people of Zimbabwe, but for the people of Matabeleland. I did not only happen to know that through your book that I read 3 times when I was in prison, Zimbabwe, 50 years of tyranny, the struggle continues. I think those who do not have the culture of reading, there are very fundamental historical issues that we will miss if we don't read. David Coulthard's book, 50 Years of Tyranny, the Struggle Continues, is one very important book that will tell you the history of Zimbabwe, starting from the issues that he mentioned here, on how Zimbabwe before independence was and also post-independence Zimbabwe. It helps us to appreciate our country, how unfortunate we are as a people born this side of the equator. The way how you represented ZAPU leaders when they were under siege during the period of Gukuraundi. When they even attempted to kill you in Gweru, representing Sidley Malonga, when you made an application for discharge at the close of state case after the state has failed to produce any evidence, and the CIO had to trail you down, to hunt you down to eliminate you for representing those people. It also resonated with me on how the regime, both of Robert Mugabe and Emerson Mnangagwa, persecuted me for standing for the poor and the downtrodden. That is something that I will never regret of having carried out. Because some of these things, we don't do them for any other purpose, but it's a calling. When I see somebody suffering, David Coulthard has told you, you must read this book and then you understand my background of where I come from. How poorly I was raised by my poor peasant parents from Gutu. My grandfather, my great-grandfather migrated from Gwanda years ago from Manama. And there was the man who constructed Mashingo. After the arrival of the pioneer column in Mashingo, they are the ones who built Mashingo town when it was Fort Victoria. In 1892, 1896. And how they later were relocated to Gutu and so forth. All those things, they are there in the book. You read them. Master of Ceremony, you asked me a very important question, which when I was seated there to say, Honorable Job Sikhala, are there things that you have not seen in life? And I answered you, yes. Things that are so dear to my heart. I have not yet seen justice being made to the people of Matabeleland who have been massacred during the period of Gukuraundi. 45 years later, after independence, the people of Matabeleland still want to know the truth of why they were massacred. I still didn't see the people of my country enjoying that freedom in their own mother country. I haven't seen the people who have been killed during the period of June 27 runoff in 2008, having justice being delivered to them. I haven't seen those. Let me tell you today, and I'm making declaration. David, you said the CIOs are here. I know they are here. Hear the CIOs and record it very carefully. Our country, whether they like it or not, shall be free. In a free country, there are going to be two important new public holidays in this country. The first public holiday will be the 3rd of March, the 3rd of January. 3 January is going to be our national public holiday in this country. 3 June is the date when Robert Mugabe and his people launched Gukuraundi on the 3rd of January 1983. We are going to have a national public day in our country called the Gukuraundi Memorial Day, where we will remember the evil that has been perpetrated among our people. That will be a day we will commemorate and remember, so that generations to come, even 1,000 years coming, they will know that there was an evil that was launched on the 3rd of January 1983 against the people of Matabeleland. Even those who perpetrated that evil will never rest. Their bones even those who are dead, will never have peace. The majority of the perpetrators of Bukura, most of them are dying and some of them are dead. We want their bones to be remembered for the evil that they perpetrated in this region. So there shall be the 3rd of January public holiday in this country called the Kukura Wundi Memorial Day. The second public holiday will be the 27th of June, where innocent citizens and masses of our people were killed simply for having voted the MDC into power. In the countryside, mothers were raped, many people were persecuted simply for voting for the MDC. They were asked long sleeve or a short sleeve. Innocent people were killed for an apparent reason. We are going to have the 27th June Memorial Day, where we'll remember all those who died because of believing that Zimbabwe needs a change. Killing people for believing their own, that we need our own government. Never again shall we allow our country to worship evil. Never. How would we allow that? If you would know, since the beginning of the mass democratic movement in this country in 1999, which we had with our elders like Paul Tembanyati. When I come to Ulawai, I will never miss to meet Paul Tembanyati. I visit him to his offices in Hillside there and talk to him to say, my father, Nyati is my father. When I was in parliament, I was avoiding him, knowing that because you know some people are not good, they are malicious. Yeah, but I am Nyati, I'm Job Nyati. That is my other surname. And he is Paul Tembanyati. He comes from Gwanda. My great-grandfather came from Gwanda. You know, I was representing the late national hero who passed on when I was in prison recently. Major General Sikupune Nyati. He was my client. When I met him, I said, no, I don't feel comfortable to represent you in court because I feel emotional about issues when I represent my relatives. I feel emotional about that. So please try to find another lawyer to represent you. And then we later tracked each other, and then I happened to know that he and my father were very close when I was a young boy. So these are things that we must be able to remember in our country. Paul Tembanyati always used to tell me a story in parliament that happened during the period of Kukura Wundi. To his people, to his family, and what happened in Balangwe and in Matabeleland South. Himself as an ex-Cipra force. He has all those details. But Paul Tembanyati is now 83 years old. This old man you saw standing here. And they want to die before he tells us the story of exactly what happened from a victim's point of view. Let's force him to write, for him to give us a book before the end of next year, to chronicle what happened, so that the truth will continue to be said and written in our country. That's why I've got huge respect for David. He was able to document what happened in this region of Matabeleland. Him and Mike Oret even went as far as getting in collaboration with the Catholic Commission for Justice and Peace for them to produce that book which Robert Mugabe, after landing from a trip from Europe, after arriving at the airport and said, we are going to deal with them, with the origins and cultures of our society who want to cause alarm and despondence in our country. After they produced Breaking the Silence, the Matebele Gukurahundi massacres. It shows these are the people who really wanted the human rights issues that have been perpetrated in our country to be brought to the fore. So, please, before God calls this day on you, we want a story from you. We want to hear what happened. Why are people not recording it? Why are those people who have been victims not recording it? I remember the effects of Gukurahundi that happened here. I once came here with the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee on Justice, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs to do a parliamentary investigations in the Matebele South region. We went to Kezi, we went to Mapisa, we went down to Plumtree and meet, villagers there. When we were documenting as a parliamentary portfolio committee, which was under the chairperson of a person coming from here, called Maishome, Brigadier, he said, yes, Brigadier General Maishome. I think you were together in Zipra with Maishome. He's the MP for Escotin somewhere there. The horrendous stories we had. They are old people of my age who do not have birth certificates or even national identity documents because their parents were killed before they obtained the birth certificates. Their children do not have birth certificates because the mother and the father do not have birth certificates. So they are not going to school. So it is an insult for anyone to say, amajaha, how would you go to school when you don't have the birth certificate? When you don't have the national identity document? This has been caused because of Gukurahundi. So these are issues we will never relent on. Issues of human rights are so passionate to some of us. We will continue. You know, I did not think twice when I was approached by the More Blessing Ali family, whether I should represent them. And for the fact, I want to say it today. I asked it and told the More Blessing Ali not to pay me even $1 for everything that I did for that family. Because I did not do that in search of gold or silver. I did it because of my passion that you cannot kill a person, cut an individual into 3 pieces. One leg on its own, as if he was Wakamula in Kuku. There was the torso on its own, and this leg there, and they threw it into a deep well. And they think that we should keep quiet about that. We will never allow, and this will never happen again. Yes, I have heard what you have said, Comrade Wende. There are people who are mad and crazy, who after waking up, especially during the period of winter, after having been warmed up by their wives in their bedrooms and so forth, they come out and go under the tree and with their few friends and say, we are declaring we are going to form a political party. A political organization must be owned by the masses of our people. Any successful revolution that has been waged against oppression has been successfully carried when the masses are the couriers and the owners of the struggle. When I had the meeting with the Umkondo Wesizwe leadership and also the ANC and others, after coming out of prison, everybody was inviting me, Obompeki, Lavana, but we know Mbeki has been one of the problems who created for us. When he came in this country, when he came in this country and they took Robert Mugabe by the hand and said, there is no crisis in Zimbabwe. Robert Mugabe, when he took Mugabe out of State House, after Mugabe was defeated in 2008. And when I met his young brother, who was based in this country during the period of the liberation struggle, when he was living in exile, Tawambek's young brother, that one, Moelesmbek told me that, Job, the primary enemy of the people of Zimbabwe is the ANC. The ANC, I have been in it, and my brother being number one perpetuator of that concept on how to deal with Zimbabwe. The ANC do not want to see democratic forces triumphing in Zimbabwe. So if you think that the mass democratic struggle will obtain concurrence or acquiescence from the ANC, you are joking. That will not happen. I said, oh, so when they invited me, during the period when they were calling me, they later invited me to attend their special congress, which was held on the 11th of December to the 15th of December last year. I went with Uba Bankom at that congress as international delegates. When I was given an opportunity for me to give solidarity, like what David Coulter told you, I don't beat about the bush. I went there and said, why the ANC? You have failed and become a minority ruling party with 40% today is because of your association. You associate with the oppressors of our people in Zimbabwe. And the ancestors and God punished you for being associated with the ZANU-PF background. I saw Becky and Umama Matiki, because that's like a million so much fidgeting on their table like this, and then they said, "Hey, this man from Zimbabwe, my God, in South Africa here we don't beat about the bush. We just go and try to give counsel politely." They were shocked when I tell you, and I told them that you will continue going down as long as you perpetuate the suffering of the people of Zimbabwe. So these are some of the things that we have to know. And I was telling them that in South Africa here, you did not obtain your independence via an armed struggle like what happened in Zimbabwe, where we had guerrillas and zebra and Zanu forces. The masses of South Africa in Soweto and others are the ones that waged the struggle in the streets of South Africa. Kunana, Soweto, Orlando, Vanakaelicha. All those areas were ignited by Winnie Madikizela Mandela and the other internal forces in South Africa who waged the struggle for their independence. When they did the Sheffield massacre and others, it became the precursor for the liberation and freedom of South Africa. The masses of South Africa carried the struggle on their own shoulders to liberate South Africa. Even in this liberation struggle of our own country would not have succeeded had it not been that the masses of our people supported the guerrillas in the bush by clothing them, by giving them food, and taking care of their needs during the period of the struggle. So the struggle is owned by the masses, not individuals who are wounded. So as long as you want to pocket the struggle that it belongs to you, I do not respect dictatorship. You know myself from the young age, I just despise and frown on any form or any element of dictatorship. I don't like it. And David Coulter is very correct, even in our national executive. I, myself, Len Mojongwe Dafazon Sekio, and Lesson Chamisa were the youngest national executive members in the MDC, when MDC was formed in 1999. We would tell, oh, Baba, oh, Bonyat Lavan, Nabanya Batala Vetu, Lobaba Gibson Swad. But no, when you see this revolutionary zeal from us, it's not through juvenile delinquents, But it is through conviction, knowing that the future of our country needs to be sorted now. Do you know when I became a member of parliament in 2000, I was a mere 25-year-old Job Sikhala. I was thin, tall, and with no car and anything. But now, I am 52 years old. You can see I've got a bald head, a gray hair, and so 25 years later, we haven't yet dealt with the dictatorship that has been oppressing us for the past 45 years. And the formula is very clear. On the basis that we abandoned the masses, we were deciding on the behalf of the masses. So that's why we are now engaging in a program of engaging our citizens, of saying, what should we do with your country for us to be able to deal with the elephant in the room? We must restore back the struggle to its masses for them to determine the future of their own country. That is the only way we will be able to deal with the current dictatorship in the country. When each one of us know the responsibility of what to do, they won't be able to spend an hour longer in power. And they know it. And there is also some very stupid political currency that is being sold by ZANU-PF Varakashi, the CIO misinformation department and others, saying, opposition in Zimbabwe is dead. What is dead is their mother and them, the ZANU-PF people themselves. They see their own deadness to mean that the opposition is dead in Zimbabwe. Opposition is not in terms of individuals coming together under the tree and saying we are a political organization. It is a mindset and the heartbeat of the citizens of our country. ZANU-PF is being frowned and despised by the hearts and minds of our people like never before. 98% of our citizens in this country don't want to hear about ZANU-PF. So they must not lie. The opposition is mutating and growing more and more on a daily basis in the hearts and minds of our people. We know that. And their hour of reckoning is going to come. I thank you, Bulawai. I thank you, Baba. I thank you, Your Honor. I'm amazed by the massive people who have come to attend this launch. I thank you. Bulawa, you have humbled me. May God bless you. May God bless you. I've seen my other colleagues who were with me in Parliament, who have also become victims of the excesses of the regime's machinations, simply to destabilize the democratic struggle in our country, recalling them and exercising all the evil against them. I have seen Honorable Watson is seated there. Can you stand up, Honorable Watson? Let's clap hands for her. A very brave woman who fought against this regime and has been recalled from Parliament. I have seen Honorable Tofa there. Honorable Tofa, stand up. May God bless you. I thank you for coming. Babanyat, I thank you. Thank you, my father. You are my father. You are exactly the age of my father. If my father was alive today, witnessing this great event, he was also going to be 83. He died in 2013. But I'm happy you are here, my father. When I see you, I see my own father in my own blood. I thank you for coming. Pastor, I thank you. Thank you for the touching word that you have given us tonight. May God bless you. Thank you for the solidarity message. Thank you, Freddie. Thank you. I can't reveal so good things that you have been doing to the people of Zimbabwe in a gathering of this nature. My friends, Charlton Oende and Honorable Daniel Molokela, there is one thing that we as human beings must know. It is one thing to have a friend, and another thing of having a genuine friend. Sometimes you move with other colleagues thinking that we are together. If you read about this book, you find quite a lot of very inquisitive things that you say. Honestly speaking, what was causing this? I think because Honorable Charlton Wende collected his executive court last week, he should have read this book. So that's why he had to take 3 buses, some broken in the road, for him to come here and publicly apologize for some of the things that have been, because they are revealed there. So I think guilty conscience overwhelmed him to come here and make the public apology. But you know me, my brother. Babanyat, you know me. David, you know me. I'm not a man who keeps grudges. When I become angry, I only become angry for a few minutes and then it's done. So with this word, I thank all those who spoke here and all those who managed to come here. I think it has been switched off.